Hello and welcome to the spooky season. Nocturne is one of Runeterra's primal demons. In-game, he looks more like his own early 2000s plastic toy. Today, we get Nocturne up to date and bring you worthy rework. But this time, I'm not only bringing you abilities and visuals. Oh no. I teamed up with Noah Jezyk, who created a new and amazing musical theme for Nocturne.
Hey guys, I'm Noah. I'm a composer, sound designer, and recording engineer, and I'm going to be showing you what went into creating Nocturne's theme.
Released 12.5 years ago, Nocturne, the Eternal Nightmare, was added to League of Legends. In time, the game moved on, the visuals evolved, and Nocturne became more and more outdated. His thematic is still appealing, but since 2011, champions like Evelynn, Tham Kench and Fiddlesticks defined demons a lot better, which left Nocturne in the shadows. Nocturne manifested in the end of the Rune Wars, created or stirred by the use of shadow magic. The terror he unleashed is one of the reasons that this magic was forbidden, and he in turn got sealed in the spirit realm. In time, he learned to creep into reality through the dreams of the people who entered the spirit realm in their sleep. Nocturne received great stories in Demacia, painting him as the otherworldly creature that is able to drive a whole village crazy. In-game, Nocturne has big, flashy red and steel-colored blades, which are connected to his wrists. His animations are jagged and clunky, and his eyes show his age the most. And to make that change as fast as possible, this is the design process. First, I created different variants of Nocturne. The first design shows Nocturne as a lengthy figure, his arms two nightmares, who function as his weapons. This pictures him as a dark sovereign of the spirit realm, a being that cultivates nightmares. The second one, a weird being. All over its body there are eyes, its shape less humanoid. Number 3 is one of my favorites, a lot of arms coming out of the darkness. This Nocturne has some legs, in contrast to the original. His blades are made from shadows. This Nocturne was a little too close to the current direction of the void, but it influenced the final design by a lot. The next one plays a bit with body horror effects. A reversed ribcage, teeth on the spine, a second mouth in the chest, thorny weapons with eyes, and a shadowy couple of arms in the lower half. I love the design, and the posture also found a way into the final design. B is playing on the thought of Nocturne being made from different pieces, his power coming from different tortured spirits. F plays with more crooked and unique parts, unevenness in his arms, a big black mass punctured with white, like the whites you see after closing your eyes. G is a monstrous design of a Nocturne who plays a bit on the fear of not understanding how he functions, similar to the terror a spider on the corner can create. The fear of knowing that these legs can move fast, and the alienness to us bipedal beings. H plays on the thought of something white, probably a bit slimy, coming out of a black mass. I was more of an experimental design, something more humanoid, but uncannily not that quite. I combined this with different face designs to create a unique look to make him look somewhat different than his current design. And while I created a lot of different designs, I came to the conclusion that a conventional Nocturne design would be better for his base form. And yes, I say base form for a reason. As a lot of you know, I asked you all in the community tab what you like best, and I got a lot of different feedback. Fear and nightmares seemed to be different for everyone. And this is something that would later find its way into the design. It was impossible to do different nightmares for each champion or role, but as things turned out, I've talked to Vedios of the LEC, who is a Nocturne mid-connoisseur. He gave some good insight into his thoughts and valuable views as a main. In short, Nocturne should be very shadowy while floating around and becoming monstrous when actually ulting. And this was the solution to adding different variations of Nocturne, and really summed up my thoughts on the topic. So let's see how it turned out. For his final design, I took a crooked and contorted torso to give him an uncanny feeling. His head is slightly more angular than his current head, and his neck is a bit longer than usual, adding to its weird position of the spine. In the middle of his chest, there's a ridge, and his hands are grabbing his shadowy torso, ready to tear it open. Nocturne has several arms. Because League of Legends has problems with the many bones, I made the first arms static, while the secondary arms, which are holding the blades, are his actual fighting tools. Nocturne has these weird retractable blades, something which I always thought a nice gimmick and shadow assassin like, but I came up with something I personally think fits him better. First things first, I took away all the red in his weapons. I made them thinner and sharper and gave each one an ancient look. as if they would have been made a millennia ago, carrying runes and incantations from the Rune Wars. 2 dark blades which were so terrible that they became the stuff of nightmares, and in the spirit world, Nocturne's power animated them. They are now able to split apart like scissors, or open mouths. Nocturne needed some sort of special touch to not look just like a black blob. This is where I used the connection to Ionia. The old Nocturne looked like a mixture of a wraith and a djinn. This one definitely had to ditch the potions. I gave him an adornment on his shoulder and chest, something that is part of different Ionian designs, as if he would have come out of a wall, a statue, or a clothes, taking something of the background with him. With this slight localization similar to Kindred and her Ionian skin, Riot can make different Nocturne skins bound to different regions, but keep your eyes peeled for something that might come later. On his back there is a cloud of arms. They will be important for his E ability. Additionally, they help to add to his unique silhouette. So this would be his base form. When thinking about Nocturne, it was a challenge to come up with what kind of fantasy I wanted for him. The first idea was showing him exiting a wall from above a sleeping child. I still like the idea, but eventually I went for more and stopped at a Nocturne design above Zed, Yone and Shen, who came together to hunt him. This would have shown him very specifically in Ionia and in fight with the specific champions. And this is something very unlikely for a Splashart. So I revised it again and went with the design you already saw in the teaser. Because I'm currently learning 3D, I also did a model to help with the design, and it definitely helped me with getting the pose right. This Nocturne is very much like a stalking, terrifying monster in the dark. Something that provokes terror. The always present dark when you slip into your dreams, the nightmare waiting to play, but also the nightmare that turns out to be real when you wake up covered in sweat. And now, friends and fiends, take a listen to the sound of darkness, while this artwork comes together, and afterwards Noah will explain how we went about it.
Okay, so right off the bat, I knew that I needed to set Nocturne apart from Fiddlesticks because these characters are so similar. So I decided pretty early on that I wanted to rely on more Ionian sound palette, which is riffing on East Asian culture and sound palette. So the problem is, I didn't know any traditional instrument players that I could use on this track. So I had to find out how to make these regular string instruments sound like they came from Ionia. So people are probably going to ask, how did I get these regular string instruments to sound like they came from Ionia? That mostly comes down to Jake, my cellist. He said, I think I was going to play this like an eru. I'm like, okay. And so I played with a lot of vibrato and portamento, which is sliding between notes, and it sounded pretty much perfect. So Jake is really the person who injected all the soul into it. So after recording Jake, I spent a few days just messing around with the processing and trying to make it sound like something that wasn't exactly a cello. And eventually I landed on this like smaller kind of choked boxier sound that still has all the expression that a cello does have, but it also sounds strange and not exactly like an instrument that exists in real life. The main part of this track, the voices, I know everybody's going to be asking about them, was kind of a spontaneous idea. I was like thinking like, oh, how do I set apart this from other League character themes? Try to do something that hasn't been done before, that's exclusive to Nocturne. And randomly I just thought of, what if I had like a bunch of whispering voices, but they're like really close and there's a lot of them and they're all saying different phrases that are melding together and you can't make out any of them. And that's kind of how the whole theme came together. So I got in touch with my friend Hani to record a bunch of vocals, but still most of the vocals in the track are my own. I wanted to thank Arthis again just for being an amazing artist and just being a great person to work with overall. But I also want to give huge props to the musicians because this track would not be what it is without them. They are the heart and soul of the music. And also, the theme is out on all streaming platforms, so go give it a listen. It helps me out a lot.
Thanks again to Noah for his amazing part in this project. Nocturne's passive is Fading Light. When Nocturne enters the map, the fog of war coils up, and dark hands and monsters start grasping around. Every time Nocturne enters vision, he's hidden in fog of war for 300 units, counted from the furthest point of vision. Similar to actual vision, Nocturne has no indicator if he is in vision or not, because otherwise this would make him a very easy tool to spot invades or wards. If this point is closer than 1000 units, he will get revealed instantly. Additionally, Nocturne keeps his AoE auto-tech but loses his healing. Nocturne's Q is Duskbringer. Nocturne's Q gets the first real ability change. Nocturne's Q ability is 1200 units, goes through minions and is AoE. A good length to tag someone, but in lane this range is a certified poke 2. Just as a reminder, Ezreal Q is 1200 units. This is why his new Q has 2 parts. First, he actually slashes the ground in a 900 units range, a range shared with Nocturne Q. Following these dark swipes, smoke covers the 1200 units, tagging champions the same way they were tagged by the original ones. There is one thing I thought of when designing Nocturne. He should be able to really fulfill his role as an ever-following shadow, a terror that effortlessly haunts you. Once Nocturne tags an enemy, he can follow their trail over terrain. The champion has to actually move over the terrain to lay the shadow. That way he can follow dashing champions, but not blinking champions, not devaluing flashes. Nocturne's W is a mystery to me. The ability is very boring, but it fits super well. Nocturne practically becomes smoke and shadow, and everything you throw it in has no effect whatsoever. The ability can be very powerful when you spell shield and Ash Arrow, but it feels boring. Cassandre has his channel, Pantheon his shield, Gwen his shroud, and Yi his Alpha Strike. Even though it makes sense and it is strong in the right moment, it's probably a missed opportunity. And this is why I want to ask you how you would have designed it. It's W. The thing is that I don't think Nocturne's theme would profit from more mobility. Nocturne should have something that keeps it similar, but more satisfying to use. I thought about more range, some chunky attacks like Clad's passive, an obscuring mist like Senna or Vegio, nightmares coming from out of vision, for example bushes. I'm really curious what you come up with, because I could not bring myself to decide on an idea for this one. Nocturne's E is unspeakable horror. Nocturne reveals the area in front of him. He lashes out at the targets, dealing magic damage and binding them to him. If the binding is not broken after 2 seconds, Nocturne fears them for a certain amount. To continue the trend of being able to follow the target, a reveal is something that Nocturne should have. You can't hide from Nocturne, and he is going to get you.
Are you getting tired yet?
Nocturne's ult stays relatively the same, but instead of darting at you like a needle, a Nocturne rips open his ribcage, revealing his staring eyes while his head glows a dark proboscis, reminiscent of a fly's, and a maddening eye opens between his brows, while his head comes even nearer. He grows some spidery legs and starts running at you. Imagine this Nocturne running through your cloud vision. Once reaching his target, he will stab his proboscis into the target, which will grow back afterwards. But he will remain in his form for 10 more seconds. If he kills a target during this time, he regrows his proboscis, resets his form timer back to 10 seconds, grows for the duration and empowers his next auto attack, dealing a portion of his R damage and healing for a certain amount, depending on your max HP. Each time he kills someone, he grows a bit. If only one enemy is alive, Nocturne's form remains until another enemy champion respawns. Once the form is reset to its normal form, he shrinks back to his normal size. Nocturne can normally be played in 2 kind of ways. There is the lethality variant, and then there is the bruiser variant. The ultimate gives him the ability to prolong his fighting style as a bruiser with the extra healing, which scales with bonus HP, while the bonus damage scales with lethality and extra damage. That way both variants get something that suits their needs out of the ultimate. And this Nocturne really feels like Nightmare, while keeping his core gameplay. Nocturne, as an age-old champion of course, has a huge catalog of skins, and redesigning every one of them would have been too much, but especially his older skins got some reimagination. We start with a yellow Nocturne skin. I made him into a real Venomish design. He already is part of the superhero genre, so I thought this would be a great opportunity. I gave him a straitjacket and also added cell bars as his weapons. The Freljordian skin got reimagined as a hating spirit, a Draugr-esque demon, the fear of the dead. His proboscis in his skin is a Ravenspeak. The Void skin is inspired by the Alien and some of the Law Void monsters. This organic look is a good contrast to his otherwise patchwork shadowy body. The Hextech skin really got a new thematic update. This Nocturne shows the fear of the Undercity towards the Enforcers. This Hextech-powered Enforcer is the shadowy form Nocturne takes in the lanes, an Enforcer bringing death and terror. The Elderwood skin is one I changed just a bit. I was never a big fan of the colors, which is why I made him darker and gave him blue and purple accents. His blades are now bones, which I think fits a monster from the woods a lot better, and I gave him blue and purple accents. His general visual and vibe is now closer to the 1000-pieced bear. Most other skins remain similar, and I just fitted back arms or constructs. The Hyperion, for example, lore-wise is supposed to be a parasite, and while I really like the skin, I don't think he actually represents this really well. But a simple change to his lower body gives him a much more inhuman look. Combine this with a proboscis in his alternative form, and you've got a real good parasitic being. A skin I spent a lot of time on was his Dark Omen skin. Here he gets one of your favorite heads, which I showed in the earlier design. A caged sinner with darkness leaking outwards. The candles in his back could easily start kindling one by one with his R cooldown slowly ticking down. And once he presses his ultimate, he blows them out. As a tombstone on his back would have been too much, I made his arms stone walls and chains, and the mask got added in the back like a statue. The one I didn't even start was Nocturne's Ethereal skin. I really like the skin, and I would only change small things. I love the way he floats through the air, like flowing through water, and would love to keep the same vibe. I think a Nocturne like this could very well be a centerpiece of his own skill line. Do you remember the Splashart iteration with Shen, Zed and Yone? I would love to give Zed, Shen, and for the matter also Lilia, a Nocturne themed skin. And you could very easily add a Kayn, Akali and Yone to them. And if you want to stay in the Demacian region, you could for sure make a great Lux or Garen skin for them. And this is the rework of Nocturne. Dark, edgy, creepy, eldritch and evil. I'm very humble of all the support you gave me during the first design show-off, and I'm very happy about all the feedback you gave me. And most of all, a very big thank you to Noah. He's amazing to work with. I'm certain we will hear a lot more coming from this man. This was Arthis, and I'll see you in the next video.